Alright, in this section, we will learn how to query Elasticsearch using its DSL. And we will use Postman to send our HTTP requests. So if you haven't installed Postman yet, please go and install it from postman.com. Remember to run your local Elastic cluster also before continue with this lecture. You can use Docker Compose -f common YAML -f Elastic cluster YAML up commands to run your local Elasticsearch cluster. To query Elasticsearch, we first need to index some data. So let's run this post command to insert a simple data to Elasticsearch index. You see that here we set Twitter index as an index name and use _doc, which is the default and the only mapping in the current Elasticsearch version. There is no possibility to add more than one mapping to a single index. So it uses a generic name _doc for that. And it is not mandatory to specify it. And at the end of the path, we pass 1 as the ID of the document. And in the JSON body, you see the 4 fields we want to index. Let's now index these documents in the Postman. I will also add another 2 documents with different ID, user ID, created at, and text values. Here are the basic query samples that uses HTTP GET method. Let's run them one by one against the local Elasticsearch cluster using Postman. As you can see, we use _search to query the Elasticsearch at the end of the path. And if you don't specify anything else, it will try to get all the data, but it is limited to 10,000 records by default. If you want to get more than 10,000 records, you can change the size to increase this maximum value. However, it is wise to use a scroll API to get that much value because it will load a lot of data and it will create a pressure on the memory. Using size, we can set the response size. For example, if it is 3, it will return only 3 records. You can also use specific properties values using q=. For example, here I set id equal to 1. And here we query the documents with the text test. Using post methods, we can also supply a query in the request body as a JSON and write more complex queries using Elasticsearch DSL. This is an example term query which uses text field. Let's run this query against Elasticsearch. As you see, this query returns all the records that include test in the text field. And we have only one record here. Let's go over the types of queries that Elasticsearch offers. Match query uses analyzed words to match any documents. It uses every word in input query, analyze them, and get combined results for each word. So this query will get records that include test or multi or word, and then return all of them in the result. Let's run this query on Postman. As you can see, we got all the records that include text or multi or word, because in our search query, we specified 3 words by separating them with space. All of them will be analyzed separately and then run against Elasticsearch. Term query uses exact term and doesn't analyze the input. So for a multi-word sentence, if you search all sentence with the term query, it will look for whole sentence in inverted index. Let's run this query on Postman. I will use term query and send the request. As you see, the result is empty. But why? Didn't we have a document with text, multi, and word? Remember that during indexing, analyzers come into place and use inverted index to index the 3 words separately, not the whole word. So how do we search the whole sentence? We will do that using keyword. Remember the mapping we have mentioned. We had 2 types, text and keyword. If you look at the query on the right side, we use text.keyword for the query. This query will search for the whole sentence because the keyword type is saved as a whole text instead of analyzing the separate words inside it. Note that with keyword, all query types run without analyzing the search text. This query actually will also work with match query and return the documents associated with test multi-word sentence. However, it is better to use term query with keyword-like queries where we search the exact term, because term query a bit faster than match query as there is no analyze step. Wildcard query. This one uses wildcards to match the search term. It can be slow as it requires a scan in most cases. This query will return all documents that include a word that starts with TE. Here star means 0 or more characters. We can also use question mark for a single character. Let's run this query on Postman. As you can see, it returns all the records that includes a word that starts with TE. Query string analyzes the input, unlike wildcard query. However, it can still use wildcards in the query DSL. You can give multiple fields in the query string fields property to search inside all fields. It is similar to wildcard search but has more flexible syntax. Again, above query will return all documents that include words that start with TE. Here star means 0 or more characters. Again, we can also use question mark for a single character here. You can also write more complex queries by just combining the different query types and use the keywords like should for combining with or must to combine with and. Here is an example. Here, since we use must, the documents returned in the results must have both test and word. However, if we change this must to should, we will get the documents that include only test and also the documents that include only Word. That means it will return a union result. Alright, I will see you in the next section to create Elastic Query Client module.